over the last few years, we've had a lot of producers come through, our doors here in the Ag Committee and talked about issues with inflation and production cost. And this will be the most expensive crop that producers have ever grown. Fertilizer costs are up, fuel prices are up from where they were a few years ago. Interest rates are going up. You name it, farm production costs are going up. And if we move to the next slide, the challenge is we know what we're going to pay to raise a crop this year, care for livestock, but we don't yet know, what those prices are going to be. We don't know, how cooperative Mother Nature is going to be in terms of a business partner. And so there's a lot of uncertainty on, you spend or borrow so much money to raise a crop this year, and what's the price going to be? What are your yields? What are the milk prices going to be? And that just highlights the importance of our work on, visiting and reviewing the safety net programs in the Farm Bill, things that help production agriculture. That's a huge priority for Senator Bozeman in this Farm Bill. If we move to the next slide, please. Farm income was pretty high the last few years, but a lot of that was driven by federal support to agriculture. But I think it's our perspective that, the safety nets really don't align with, the risks that we face today in agriculture. When trade can be weaponized against us, when you have pandemics, when you have, historic bird flu outbreaks, catastrophic natural disasters year after year, we really need to address our risk management tools and make sure that they're working appropriately for producers. What's going on? I see a chat. Did something happen?
No, it's okay. You can continue. Apparently Zoom doesn't want to share the slides, but we can see you and hear you.
Okay, and feel free to share the slides with any of the participants. And I can't see the slides on the screen, so I'm just kind of talking through some of the things that we're focused on. If you go to the next slide, I think it really highlights the challenges in the farm safety net. 70% of the support to agriculture over the last 6 years has come from outside the Farm Bill. It's been through CFAP, through MFP, through WIP, through ERP, through the Paycheck Protection Program. And that really highlights that we need to make sure that crop insurance is working when folks need it, that the Title I safety net reflects the realities of agriculture, the input costs that producers are seeing. You can't afford to wait several years for the farm safety net to catch up with reality. So that's a huge focus for us is figuring out how do we make the risk management tools work better for producers. But there are other things that will impact this Farm Bill. Crop insurance is a critically important safety net. We know how important crop insurance is for your major row crop producers, your livestock producers. We know that on the specialty crop end, crop insurance could work better. So there are obviously things that we can do there. But one thing that's and I think I'm not even paying attention to the slides anymore, so I apologize to everybody there. But one thing that's a priority for Senator Bozeman, and I think a lot of other Republicans is, we're not going to tie eligibility to crop insurance or risk management tools like, the Title I programs, your dairy safety net, your NAT program. We're not going to tie that to climate. We're not going to make eligibility conditional on what climate practices or how climate smart producers are on their farm. And there are efforts underway to do that, to try to tie climate smart practices into the fabric of the farm risk management safety net. And that's again, a red line for Senator Bozeman, something that we're not going to entertain this Farm Bill. And again, there are a number of efforts to try to go down that path that we're paying very close attention to. And I think in the Farm Bill, you get judged a lot by what you're able to get in the bill. but also what you're able to keep out of the bill. And those can be wins too. So that's going to be a challenge for us, this farm bill. But this farm bill needs to support agriculture. It needs to support the risk management tools. It needs to continue to, make investments and prioritize agricultural research. U.S. farmers are so productive. They're the best around the world. We're producing 200% more, crop and livestock products today as we did 50 years ago, while because of, technological improvements, because of the use of, precision agriculture and fertilizers, our inputs have remained virtually unchanged. So we know we need to put some emphasis there. This year, we're going to have a record low trade deficit. So we know we need to make investments in MAP and FMD funding so that we can continue to find and develop new markets for U.S. agricultural products. The thing there is we need the administration to go out and negotiate trade deals too, so that we have access to those markets and fair access to those markets. When you see that the UK is going to engage on CPTPP, that's something that we should have done, and that's something that would benefit agriculture. But and I want to take questions from everybody, so I'll kind of start wrapping up. The challenge that we're going to face this farm bill, the last farm bill cost $867 billion. This farm bill is going to cost about $1.5 trillion. And the reason for that is largely due to something called the Thrifty Food Plan, which is how they evaluate SNAP benefits. SNAP is 82% of the farm bill. But in the 18th Farm Bill, they included a provision to reevaluate how benefits are calculated every 5 years. And so the first year that they did it was 2021. And historically, these reevaluations have been cost neutral. And in 2018 Farm Bill, CBO said that this provision wouldn't cost any money. OMB, USDA, the congressional understanding of that provision was that it would not cost any money. It would not increase SNAP benefits or outlays. In reality, it costs $250 billion. And that's more than we spend on our conservation programs, crop insurance, Title I, horticulture, you name it. Every other ag focused program in the Farm Bill, the Thrifty Food Plan costs more than that. And that's going to be, a big issue as we debate this farm bill. Our counterparts in the House are, going through a budget reviewing exercise, thinking about how do we, balance the federal budget, address our, historic budget deficit that we have. And things are on the table. They're looking at SNAP. I think they've kind of taken off entitlement programs, but how do we address the spending, the historic inflation that we've seen in this country? And a $1.5 trillion farm bill will certainly be part of the conversation. We're committed to getting the bill done. Senator Bozeman wants to get a bipartisan farm bill across the finish line. His predecessor, Senator Roberts, got 87 yes votes on the farm bill. Senator Bozeman wants to get 90. He's been saying recently you could have something on the floor that says I support Mother's Day, and you probably wouldn't get more than 90 votes. So we know that we need to do a bipartisan farm bill, but there are things that we can look at. Are there reforms to the SNAP program that we can consider? Certainly. We're not trying to take food away from people, but when you have 2 jobs open across the economy for every unemployed person, can we review able-bodied working adult provisions? Can we make sure that states can't waive those provisions and actually get people back to work and allow SNAP to be a hand up and not a handout? Can we make crop insurance work better so that producers have the tools they need? The answer to all of those is yes. We just need to do it in a bipartisan way, and we need to make sure that we've got the financial resources we need to address all the needs of agriculture in this farm bill. With that, I know we've had some issues with the slides. Folks will have time to review it. My contact info is on the slides if you have any questions and want to reach out. But maybe Derek, this is an opportunity where I can, take any questions from folks in the audience.
So what does the funding for risk management programs look like in the next Farm Bill? Is that correct?
Well, the Congressional Budget Office, their projections for crop insurance, I believe, is $97 billion over 10 years. That's up about 20% from the last Farm Bill, but largely reflects, increased participation in the program, the expansion to livestock producers. It's not because of, new investments necessarily in the crop insurance program or congressional development of new programs. And then the Title I safety net, I think, is somewhere in the neighborhood of 55 to 60 billion over 10 years.
To repeat that question, are there any plans to increase funding for the specialty crop industry going forward?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and I do think that'll be a topic we touch on later on as well.
Yeah. And that's the $1 trillion question, right? At the end of the day, there are a lot of needs across agriculture, specialty crops, ag research, trade, Title I, credit, FSA lending limits. I mean, you name it, they all cost money. And where are we going to find the money to do it? The Inflation Reduction Act has $34 billion. Will some of that money be redirected, to the needs of agriculture in a bipartisan way? We don't know the answer to that. But what I can tell you that will be difficult is finding and spending more money. I think anything we do in the Farm Bill is going to have to be paid for. In this environment with out of control spending, any new efforts have to be offset with some spending reductions somewhere else.
Thank you. Then I believe we have time for one last question from the Zoom, and then we will break, hopefully, to fix the issue on Zoom for the last time. I think we might have to restart it because we're unable to share the slides, just so the participants here know. People in person can actually see them fine. But the last question for now is, what are the proposed changes for the able body requirement for SNAP, and what are the plans to get more state enforcement?
That's a great question. And I think at this point, we just need to be able to have the conversation, and we're not having that conversation in a bipartisan way on all four corners, to recognize the issue and find some solutions to it. I mean, we know the SNAP program is important. I'm from Kentucky originally, if you can't hear it in my accent. And there are parts of Kentucky where over 30% of the people depend on SNAP. We know our neighbors in rural America depend on it. But when the program by itself costs $1.2 trillion, we have to be able to sit down and say, are there things that can be improved here? Can we make sure that people that need it are getting it and people that don't aren't? And that, again, that it's a hand up, that people are using SNAP to elevate themselves and move on from the program and better the lives for them and their family. That's all needs to be part of the conversation for this Farm Bill. So there's no specific proposal at this point, but more that we need to be able to sit down and truly negotiate a path forward. Because at $1.2 trillion and over 40 million people on the program, that's not fiscally sustainable.
Well, thank you so much. We'll try to be protective of your time. We know you have an 11 o'clock meeting, and we're also trying to keep our conference on schedule too. So we will close out that session right now. And if we could give Dr. Newton a hand just to let him go.